Good morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. All right. We are getting closer and closer and closer to this whole thing going kinetic. Yeah. If you're looking for something to do today, nice day on a Sunday, maybe not too hot, unless, of course, you live in North Dakota, all right? Maybe a little range time might be a good idea. And I say that for good reason. We are getting closer and closer and closer to the violence popping off. And no, I'm not being fear pornish or hyperbolic or anything like that. You look at what happened yesterday, and this is that we're at the edge of the cliff. Broadview, Illinois, which is a suburb outside of Chicago. I know it well. It's about 10 or 12 miles west of the city. Mind you, I lived about 18 miles west of the city. So, yeah, I'm relatively familiar with it. ICE shows up yesterday, National Guard, whole 9 yards that way, to go in to conduct operations, right, to get rid of illegals. You had a group of protesters who took it upon themselves to use about 10 cars to ram ICE vehicles and box them in so the ICE agents couldn't go anywhere. All right. At a minimum, you're talking about causing a traffic accident. And you'd think at a maximum, you're talking about obstruction of justice. Until you had one woman who's well known to federal authorities pull out a gun, a semi-automatic rifle. Now imagine you are law enforcement of some sort, and some violent person points a gun at you. What are you going to do? We all know the old saying, never point a gun at somebody unless you plan on using it. Okay, this isn't Hollywood where you stand there and point a gun at a guy and monologue for 5 minutes and yada yada yada. This woman pointed a gun at federal agents. We haven't seen that yet until yesterday. In response, God bless the federal agents for the restraint they showed. They fired warning shots. So this is the first time we've had shots fired by law enforcement at these protesters or in their proximity. I guess that's a better way to put it. Because of this aggression. Didn't harm anybody, didn't shoot anybody. But how long until that's next? That some crazed lunatic shoots an ICE agent or shoots a National Guardsman. Oh wait, we've already had that happen. That's where I'm saying this is the restraint that these guys are using, law enforcement. Because a week after Dallas, at an ICE facility where somebody was taking pot shots at a van, we have a woman pull out a rifle right in front of ICE agents. I'm dumbfounded that she wasn't put down. Kudos to the troops that did not. I don't want to see any human lives taken. But then how far does this go? What happens the next time? Today, when somebody pulls a rifle on guys and gals trying to do their job, trying to enforce the law, and somebody does pull the trigger. That's where we're at, guys. That's how crazy this is. I told you yesterday about Portland. 100+ days of rioting in front of the ice facility in Portland. Portland has turned into the biggest shithole in the United States. You know, congratulations, Baltimore, Detroit, south side of Chicago, St. Louis. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You no longer have the title. Portland has got it. We had a federal judge yesterday, Trump appointee, who ordered Trump to pull back any of the National Guardsmen that he wants to send in there to restore law and order. Okay? It's an interesting ruling because what the judge said was, quote, "The law only allows the president to call in the National Guard under exceptional circumstances, including invasion, rebellion, or an inability to execute federal law using regular forces." Okay. I think we could all agree this is a rebellion. I think we could all agree that these protesters are prohibiting the execution of federal law. Okay. But the last 3 words were the key. Using regular forces. Okay, you can't send in the National Guard, all right? That the National Guard is controlled by Oregon. But regular forces are controlled by the federal government. In other words, active duty troops. And I know we all get into active duty troops are not allowed to perform actions on the soil of the United States, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, unless we have exceptional circumstances. You know, if war comes to the United States, for example, right? If during World War II, the Japanese would have attacked the mainland, right? Nobody was going to go, gee, we can't fight back because our troops are not allowed to fight on U.S. soil. Exceptional circumstance. Same thing here. Invasion, rebellion, inability to execute federal law. Okay. Well, we weren't invaded, but the other 2 we got. Remember that oath that Bernie Sanders seems to forget part of. You know, foreign and domestic. That's it. Okay. So yes, there are circumstances where U.S. troops can be used on American soil. And the judge basically said, okay, we're not going to let you use the National Guard, but go ahead and use regular Army troops or Marines or whatever. It's not like the Navy's going in. Okay. But yeah, this is how crazy it is. Where the protesters, the terrorists, the violent mobs are getting more and more and more brazen. They want to start this. They are doing their damnedest to goad Trump and any conservative into doing something. Because the funny thing is, and the media plays right into this, because yesterday in Broadview, a shot was fired by U.S. law enforcement. And they'll come up and say, U.S. law enforcement started the fight, right? You know the media will, you know the liberals will, you know certainly Antifa and AOC and all these will say, they started it, right? You know, they'll portray it like the media just walked, or I'm sorry, the law enforcement just walked in to Broadview and just decided to start shooting people, right? That there was no reason for them to do it because all we were doing was peacefully protesting, right? This is why I say, if you're looking for something to do today, go run through a box of rounds. Go clean the weapon. Make sure it's in pristine condition. Make sure all your magazines are loaded. Do something. Because when this pops off, it's not going to come gradually. We're already in gradually. It's going to come suddenly. A friend of mine was talking to a U.S. Marshal this week. She was telling me about it yesterday. And the U.S. Marshal is certain we are headed for civil war. That's a scary thought. The guys that are most prepared to stop anything like that are saying it's coming. We don't need this crap. We have too much going on otherwise that we need to worry about. But you look at the coalition that's being formed. You look at social media. You look at the regular media. I mean, you've seen all the stories about Target recently, about people going into Target and demanding that their carts be given to them free because that's reparations, right? Or grocery stores or anything like that. You look at the axis of evil that's being put together. The illegals, the cartels, the radical Islamists, the radical black community, the white liberal women. This is their rainbow coalition, to use Jesse Jackson's old term, to fight the man. As I've said many times, it's going to be interesting when this all happens, because it's not like they're going to start wearing uniforms, other than Antifa, who's dressed in all black, as I sit here in a black t-shirt. You're going to have to be in a defensive posture. And I want everybody to remember that. This is what we want to take, a defensive posture. Do not, under any circumstances, go out looking for trouble, okay? You're just asking for problems. But if they bring it to you, end it quick. Silent, but deadly. And no, I'm not talking about a fart. Pinball out.